Great taste. Sweet. Sour. So good to taste.
Welcome to Great Taste on KRUU 100.1 FM, the solar-powered voice of Fairfield, Iowa. I'm Steve Boss, and we are in the Hy-Vee Club Room for 60 minutes of delicious radio. Thank you all for coming. As we do every week and have for several months, we talk to our health coach, Emily Rose Shaw, right off the top of the hour. Is that right? Top of the hour, right. Yes, we've been connecting the health topic of relationships to food, starting with our own relationship to food. That's what we've been spending time doing. And last week we discussed food cravings and what we can learn from them. So how are we going to move past cravings? Because nobody has a craving here anymore, right? Right? We went through that? Right. No more cravings. So that's awesome. Emily is a miracle worker. How are we going to move past that and build on that from this point on?
We are actually going to build on it. We're not quite past it yet. We're going to be talking about the most common things we crave, which are sugary things and salty things. So today I want to give you my top 10 sugar and salt alternatives. So beginning with salt. According to Michael Jacobson, who's the co-founder of the Center for Science in the Public Interest, salt is the deadliest ingredient because it leads to our biggest killer, which is heart disease. And actually the problem lies in the hidden sodium found in processed and restaurant foods. So it's really another incentive for us to get back into the kitchen and use salt, but use it in moderation. We'll talk about that in a minute. So just so everyone knows, there is an upper limit daily allowance for our salt intake, and that's 2,400 milligrams per day for healthy young adults and 1,500 milligrams a day for African Americans and adults over 50 years old.
So mine's what? Mine's 20?
20? No. And, I wanted to point out also that we always hear about the upper limit, but salt is actually a nutrient, so we do need some of it. So I thought you might like to hear that, Steve.
We're going to be talking about this after the segment's over.
I'm sure we are. So first I want to kind of go over the differences between standard table salt versus sea salt or pink Himalayan salt. So standard table salt is mined from salt deposits. It's more processed. In the manufacturing process, the trace minerals are removed, but iodine is added back in. There are additives that are included to help prevent clumping. And then sea salt and pink Himalayan. Sea salt's obtained directly from evaporation of seawater, and then pink Himalayan's mined from the earth. And they're much more natural. They're much less processed. They retain their trace minerals. There's no additives. However, they may have less iodine than the standard salt. So it's really important for us to be eating iodine-rich foods. So that brings me to my number one salt alternative, which is to include sea vegetables in your diet. They're iodine-rich and they're salty. They come from the sea. So some examples would be dulse flakes, kelp, nori. There's a lot of different kinds of seaweed salad, which is really delicious. If you're starting out with sea vegetables, I recommend something like dulse flakes, which you can find at natural health food stores. And I like them because they're really easy to just sprinkle on salads or vegetables or beans or grains, really whatever. And then also nori sheets, they're kind of like paper. They're great for making sushi at home or have them in the restaurants, and those are really fun. You can put lots of different kinds of stuffings in the nori. You don't even have to do sushi fillings. You can get creative and do sandwich fillings or whatever. So that's a great thing too. So the number two is salt-free seasonings. That are just herbs, that are spices, that are dried spices. And there's a number of those. You can make your own blends, which is really fun, or you can buy the store-bought blends, which they have some great ones. And then also use fresh herbs. Fresh herbs are wonderful, and they provide a lot of flavor without the salt. So the bottom line with salt is that, I recommend the more natural sea or Himalayan salts, but they're not a free ticket to go overboard on the salt. they have about the same sodium content as regular table salt. So, use them in moderation and really try to reduce the amount of processed foods and restaurant foods that you're consuming.
Okay, so what now are your top sugar alternatives?
Okay, so just here's a fact. The average American consumes over 20 teaspoons of added sugar per day, equaling about 142 pounds of sugar per person per year. That's the average American. So that's a problem. That's definitely a problem. As we discussed last week with the study on refined sugar, it's highly addictive and it's linked to weight gain and a host of other problems. But lucky for us, especially nowadays, there's a lot of different sugar alternatives that can sweeten anything from beverages to different cakes and things you want to bake. So my number one sugar alternative are dates and applesauce. And I'll tell you why. It's because they're whole foods. They have lots of fiber, they have vitamins and minerals, and they enter the bloodstream much slower because of it. You can purchase date sugar, which is the granulated form that's actually equivalent to white sugar in baking. I use dates in the blender, on salads, in homemade ice cream, in grain dishes. And here's a tip if you're using dates in a standard blender, if you're going to use it in a smoothie. Soak the dates in a little bit of water, maybe like 5 to 10 minutes before you're going to use it, and you can actually add the dates in the soak water to your blender, and that'll give it a head start on the blending process. Other dried fruits are also amazing. Mangoes, apples, cherries. Just watch when you're getting the dried fruits because they can have added sugar to them, to the fruit. So you want to try and get the unsweetened versions of them. And then applesauce is great in baked goods. It's wonderful. Wonderful. It gives it a nice texture. It's really great. You can also use 100% fruit juice as a sweetener in baked goods instead of sugar. Okay, so moving on to stevia. Stevia is from the leaves of the stevia plant. It's 100 to 300 times sweeter than sugar. And it's my favorite sweetener for beverages. You can also use it for baking and cooking. And it's great because it has zero impact on blood sugar. It's naturally calorie-free. And, there's the green stevia, which is more natural, closer to the leaf. It has more of a leafy flavor. So, I personally go for the white stevia or the liquid stevia. I find it to be still a much better option than refined white sugar. So the number 3 is coconut palm sugar. This is something relatively new to hit the shelves. It comes from the coconut tree. It's low glycemic compared to white refined sugar. It's even said to help balance blood sugar. It's mineral rich and great for beverages and cooking. And then the next one is honey. Honey, of course, is very traditional. There's different grades, darker and lighter varieties that affect the taste. It's great to get raw, minimally processed honey because it has vitamins, minerals, and enzymes. It's actually said that consuming local honey can offer immunity to local allergens in your area. And then lastly, 100% pure maple syrup, grade B. Grade B has the most amount of minerals, and of course you can use it in drinks, baked goods, all kinds of things, on healthy pancakes. So those are the 10 alternatives. And then I just have to say, avoid all artificial sweeteners. So Splenda, Sweet and Low, Equal, they have an appeal because they're calorie-free, but they're really man-made junk. They're chemical junk, and there's more and more studies coming out saying, talking about the adverse health effects to consuming those. So the bottom line with sugar is that, similar to salt, try to use these sugar alternatives. They're not an excuse to use more, don't go overboard with them, but they're more natural, they have more nutrients, and many of them are lower glycemic.
Okay. She's not finished yet. Any particular hints to help people out who might have a hard time transitioning from using salt and sugar?
Yeah, so have fun experimenting with these different sweeteners. They're all at our fingertips. Just try using them in different things. See what what you like the best. And also just be aware that our taste buds actually do change over time. So as little as 1 week, if you try one of these sweeteners consistently, you may find that you adjust to it very well, and you may even really prefer it over the refined white sugar.
Okay. Action step.
The action step is just really to experiment and try, if you're using the table salt, try to, use one of the alternatives, whether it's the pink Himalayan salt or you want to get into sea vegetables, which I do recommend, and then use one of these sugar alternatives and just have fun with it, because food is about celebration and fun.
That's our health coach, Emily Rose Shaw. You can find her at emilyroseshaw.com.
Thank you.
Okay, now before we give up on that whole topic, I have to make a couple of comments. because I think, personally, I'm not a physician, but I do believe that most of the problems that we have with salt come from the fact, just that you mentioned, most people use get a lot of salt in highly processed foods that they either purchase and eat at home, or they're eating out, junk foods, etc. And also the consumption of regular table salt, as opposed to minerally rich sea salt or pink Himalayan salt. So I think it's really, this whole thing about salt really needs to be looked at in a broader fashion, I guess you'd say, rather than salt is a problem. I think it has to do with the consumption of foods that have lots of refined salt in them. That's a personal opinion. And of course, all the people who sell salts will tell you the same thing. Right. They're definitely into that. And as far as sugar, one of the points I want to bring up is that I really feel like, how many people, let me just ask, how many people feel like they have a problem with sugar? They're, in some way, they can't stay away from it. Be honest, let's see. Not that many, just a few. Yeah, that's very good. I like that. Okay, but there are some people. For example, I have a friend who, if she eats one teaspoon of ice cream, she'll eat the entire pint. For example, so that's a problem, obviously. But otherwise, I'm just a big fan of moderation. I don't see anything wrong with organic cane sugar, as long as it's used in moderation, just like anything else. I think that we have a tendency, because of so many health problems that people have these days, and the fact that they are linked to overconsumption, we have a tendency to label these things as enemies. And I'm not so sure that they really are enemies. I think that they're really just abused, that's all. Mm-hmm. You want to answer? Give me something.
Yeah, I think that, you're right in that it really is a lot of the problem with salt is the processed foods and all of that. But I think there are some alternatives. We can certainly have some salt. And like I said, it is a nutrient. We do need some of it.
Right.
If we have the choice between regular table salt, it's a detail. It's a detail whether you choose table salt or whether you choose rock salt. But if you have both, I would say go with the rock salt. But it is really about, the whole thing is getting back and learning how to make your own healthy food. And it's just, even eating at home, there's a lot of canned beans, for example, even organic canned beans. There's a lot of hidden sodium in there. So just to, be mindful of the labels and making our food, and then eating the sea vegetables, for example, that has all the additional nutrients, all the amazing minerals that are in there. And then for sugar, yeah, it is about moderation. And there are companies who are saying, they know that sugar is a problem for people, so they're coming out with these different things. But I think for people who do have a problem, they do have an addiction to sugar, which is a very real thing. I think that it's good for people to know that there are all these different alternatives that taste wonderful, and it depends on the kind of food you're eating too. You can really experiment with these different things, and the bottom line really is just to enjoy food and have fun with it.
And I understand what you're saying, and I'm not making light of the fact that there are people who have serious problems with that. But for example, when you have a cup of delicious tea that you've brewed yourself in the morning, like a black Assam tea, and you're having it in, we'll say, the English fashion with a little splash of milk in it, you probably can't, depends on your taste buds, I suppose, use anything other than a really good organic sugar in it. You can't put date sugar in it. You can't put coconut sugar in it. You can't put fruit juice in it because it's going to taste totally bizarre. That's just it. Anyway, whatever.
To be continued.
Yeah, right. And it's really cool because we've got so much going on this couple weeks, actually, with nutrition and food. We have Africa ENGO on this evening with a magnificent discussion about raw vegan food. And next week we have a terrific guest on who's going to talk about the energetics of food and food in eating in season with food. So a lot of great stuff that's happening, and I think it's all good. And we're going to talk about sugar. And I'm probably going to get castigated, but anyway, whatever. It'll work. And that's a big word, just to let you know. Did you hear it? Castigated. That's a good one, don't you think? Oh, that's an inside joke. Anyway, the point is that before we introduce our guest, we have a song in tribute to her. Tom Allen is here, and you are going to play a song that there aren't too many people in this audience that will remember, I don't think. There are a few of us, yes, because, it's from a different generation, right?
Yeah, that would be yeah.
But this is a tribute to our guest. So here it is, Melanie's song, I Don't Eat Animals.
Yeah, and before I go into this, I really want to share with you a really sweet little piece about, we got a little bit of, anyway, one of the most delicious drinks I ever had, bar none, was making sassafras tea with maple sap that had not been boiled down very far. So it's sweeter than it is when it comes out of the tree. And I'm sure most of you make maple syrup, and so you know what I'm talking about. But
how many people make maple syrup here? Yeah, okay. Almost everybody, right? That's good.
Almost everybody, right? But my brother started making it in New Hampshire now, and just sent me a couple pints of maple syrup that he made. But anyway, you take this maple sap, and it's boiled down a little bit, and it's sweeter, but hasn't gotten thick, and you get it hot and put sassafras bark in it. Unbelievable. And it tastes a little woody. It's really cool.
Tom, I'll tell you what, why don't you bring some sassafras bark and some of your brother's maple syrup, and let's try it. Because it's not fair to tell everybody about it and then not experience it. Don't you agree?
I dig it. I'm into it.
So should I introduce the song again? Or you want to introduce the song? Tom Allen here.
This is I Don't Eat Animals by Melanie. I was just thinking about the way it's supposed to be. I'll eat the plants and the fruit from the trees, and I'll live on vegetables, and I'll grow on seeds, but I don't eat animals, and they don't eat me. But I don't eat animals, 'cause I love them, you see. I don't eat animals, I want nothing dead in me. I don't eat white flour, white sugar makes you rot. Oh, white could be beautiful, but mostly it's not. A little bit of wholemeal, some raisins and cheese, but I don't eat animals, and they don't eat me. I don't eat animals, 'cause I love them, you see. I don't eat animals, I want nothing dead in me. A little bit of wholemeal, some raisins and cheese. I'll eat the plants and the fruit from the trees, and I'll live on vegetables, and I'll grow on seeds, but I don't eat animals, and they don't eat me. Oh, I'll live on life, I want nothing dead in me. I'll become life, and my life will become me. I'll live on life, and my life will live in me.
That was beautiful, Tom. Really great, really great. Now you got to come up with another one for next week. That's gonna. So we'll talk about it. We'll see.
You tell me what it's about.
Well, it's about. We're going to let you talk to Liam. Maybe after, or if you've got to go, and he can give you a little preview, and then maybe we can come up with a song. Tom and I had to think really, through all this to try to come up with the exact purpose song, exact right song. Steely Dan. Okay, we can do Steely Dan, right? You can do Steely Dan, right?
Yeah. Why not? It was Bob Dylan last week, and why not?
All right, Tom Allen, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. That's great. You're listening to Great Taste on KRUU 100.1 FM, the solar-powered voice of Fairfield, Iowa. I'm Steve Boss. 60 minutes of absolutely delicious radio. And right now, I want to introduce our guest, our special guest. Not that Emily wasn't a special guest and Tom wasn't a special guest, but you're tall.
No, look. Watch.
Oh, that's much better. I like it.
I'm 5'8".
Okay, that's better. I can't stand like that, though, for the rest.
My heels, but that's like another show.
That's definitely another show. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, this is Africa ENGO, and she is going to be actually doing a show on KRUU called The Skinny, because there are numerous reasons that we'll let her go into, but one of the reasons that it's called The Skinny is because Africa used to weigh over 250 pounds. And she doesn't weigh, you can tell, right? She doesn't weigh over 250 pounds anymore. So why don't you start there? I'm sorry, you don't know the rules. I forgot to mention to you. No one touches this mic except me. And we haven't gone into that in weeks, right? But anybody has a question, don't forget, just raise your hand and I'll come out there, but no one touches the mic but me. And the reason is not because I'm an egomaniac, which I might be, but the reason is because it makes lots of noise when other people touch the mic. So that's the only reason. Okay. It's not even that exciting, but anyway.
Do I have to lean?
No, actually just let me put it right here, and you'll be fine.
That sounds really naughty.
That's another show.
That's another show. It keeps being another show, like, every time. Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for that song. That was a really good song. He doesn't hear me, but it was a really good song. I don't eat animals.
I just want you to know I thought of that song for you. So.
I love that song. It's so cute. I love it. So thank you so much for having me, and I'm really excited to be here today. And I did used to be 250 pounds. Actually, I was 251 pounds, but I always say that I was 250 pounds because it just seems like a more,
It's a rounder number.
Yeah. Like, and I could say I lost 110 pounds instead of 111. But, James Moore always says that I lost 111 pounds, so.
We could just change it. I mean, we could just say you lost 120 pounds. I mean, what's the difference?
It kind of gets like more and more and more. Like, I also, when I lost the weight, I'm an activist. And so I was working as an activist, and I started to I was getting unhealthy myself. And so, I didn't want to continue working on the world until I'd really worked on myself. And so part of the challenge of me losing weight had a charity challenge to it, which was that I was going to lose 100 pounds by the next World AIDS Day. World AIDS Day is December 1. And that I was going to run from New York to Chicago. So, the reason I'm telling you this story is not to show off that I ran from New York to Chicago.
You did stop every once in a while, right?
Every day. Like, I ran like 20 miles a day. And, so the reason I'm telling you this is because every time, like, people tell the story about my running, like, it just gets like, they're like, she ran 1,000 miles. And then it's like, she ran from New York to LA. Like, she ran from, like, New York to Hawaii. Like, they just make it, like, longer. And I'm like, no, I did not run that. It was far enough. But people always kind of, like, make it longer or make me have lost more weight. So I figure by the time I'm, like, 80 or something, they'll be like, she lost 1,000 pounds. I'll be like, yeah, I did, I guess.
But the truth is out. So that's it. You did lose that weight. You ran from New York to Chicago, and actually when you got to Chicago, you ended up at Oprah Winfrey's studios, right?
I did. I left from the United Nations, which my dad was a UN ambassador. So I left from the United Nations and I ran to Oprah studios because it's good kind of like, it is sounds like a good press thing, but the real reason that I ran there is because she's been a face for Black women in the media, and she really inspired me. And I followed a little bit of her Best Life diet, which really talks about not just losing the weight, like for the sort of the shell, but having your purpose and being in line with your spirit and all those other elements. And that's what really, I think, made me lose the weight and keep it off, is that it wasn't just about, the skinny. It was about my spirit and fulfilling my dreams and those kind of things. So that's why I ran there, to tell her thank you. And also because she's been really involved with AIDS orphans, in particular girls in Africa. And so because I'm born in Africa, I also wanted to tell her thank you for that. So thank God she saw me.
All right. Now, but you didn't stop running there, because you used that vehicle to do more ultramarathons, right?
I did. Then I ran from Italy to France, and then
Wait a minute. What part of Italy to what part of France?
Milan. I ran from Milan to Cannes, and then I ran which was really actually super challenging, because one, it was super challenging because I lost my father like 3 days before I was supposed to do it. Yeah. So, but that's what kind of made me realize, a lot of those things are what really made me realize it actually was a blessing that I lost my father 3 days, because it made me realize that like I had all the tools, because you're like on a diet, you're like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to eat this sugar. Like you have all these pieces, but at some point it has to like come together. And losing my father, there was good things about it. And I got to really see, like the day my father died, like I went running and I ate well, I cried and all those things as well. And I kept going, which made me realize that my purpose was in line, and that I couldn't stop my mission, which was raising awareness about AIDS and solutions to the fight against AIDS, like education and empowerment of girls. And so, losing my dad was a gift, because I got to see that like, hey, I actually am in line, and I was in line with his work as well. And so it was challenging. And in Italy, like the particular route that I did, it was like up, down, like it was really hard. And for 2 weeks, it rained. Like I'm from the rainforest. I'm born in Cameroon. So I know about rain, but like it literally for 2 weeks, non-stop, like every day rain. So I couldn't even stop. Like if you watch my film, you'll see like I had to eat like at the car door, because I was so wet that like if I got in the car, I would be cold, or it just was like non-stop rain for 2 weeks. So it was that run was, even though it was like very beautiful, because by the time I got to the Riviera, it was very cinematic kind of running, but it was definitely a challenge. And also like I gained weight. I mean, like, can you imagine you're training to run 20 miles a day? Like when I first did it, I lost weight. When my dad died, I took on 20 pounds. Like that. Like no explanation for it.
I was just going to ask you, is there any explanation? You didn't change your eating habits at all?
No. I took 20 pounds, and I was like, because I'm really grateful Nike did all my clothes, because it was World Cup time. So I wore Nike red laces, and I wore all Nike gear. And so they sent me, like, just before I was leaving, I was like getting all the stuff to go, because I was going to run in Africa during World Cup and all that kind of stuff. So they sent me all the gear. And then like after that news happened, I was just trying everything on, like just to, you work out, like you have all workout clothes, but there's certain ones, like you just wear those shorts again, and it just feels...
The ones that stand up by themselves.
Yeah, like it just feels right. Like, so I was doing the like, oh, which ones are going to go with this one, and which ones are going to go with that one. And like the sports bra was like tighter. And I was like, the one thing I love about losing weight is that I got rid of, like, I had really big, can you say boobs?
Yeah, you can say that. That's okay.
I had really big boobs, like opera boobs. And so, like, I loved, like, going to Victoria's Secret and they measure me and they're like, oh, you know, you're like an AB. Sorry, but we can give you a push-up bra. I'm like, no, girl. I don't want a push-up bra. I used to be like a EF, like I'm good with my little girls. I don't want any push-up bra. So I think I went off the subject, but so I'm trying on this sports bra and then it's like fitting. So I'm like calling the people at Nike and I'm like, hey, it's Africa, I love you. Did you guys send me the right like sizes and stuff? Because like my boobs are really tight. And then I just got on the scale and I was 20 pounds heavier and I was like, from what? Like from what? You know? And like my mother had some things too, like that happened to her too, that we just couldn't explain. And I went running. I was running 20 miles a day. Not 1 pound came off of that 20 pounds. Nothing. And then after, I mean, this is fast forward. After I buried my dad, like my dad was really important in my country. Paul Bamla ENGO, he was really important in my country. He was part of writing the legal independence papers for my country out of colonization. So he's a big hero in my country. So when he died, we had to take his body around. And so we had like 20 funerals because we just had to like take the body like to all these people. I mean, we were like dressed up at the beginning. At the end, we were like, okay, God bless you. Thank you so much. Bye. Like, here we go. My brother was in like football gear. We were like, we know, we're sorry. You're sorry. We love you. You know, it's so terrible to say that, but that's like how it was. We were like, I know, but we can't give you any money. I know he gave you money, but we can't give you any more. Love you. Thank you. Bye. Like, you know. So anyway, so we're taking my dad's body around and then like, I don't even remember. I can't believe I'm telling this story. I could never send this to my mother. Mom, I'm sorry.
We'll give her the YouTube URL.
I know. So we're taking my dad around to like so many funerals, like, and which was also impactful because I saw like people that like were like, I'm a judge because your father, and like, oh, your father put me through school, and like your father built our entire school and gave us land, and like I really got to hear the history. So that was a really beautiful part of like going on this like tour with my dad. But I know it's like rock star. He would have loved it though, you know, like I think he would have loved that tour of like his body everywhere and everybody paying attention. But the funeral like in my village, putting my dad like in the ground, and it was just like it was too much for me. Like also because I'm in like a bit in media, like I had to do a lot of like media, and I was like, okay, I'm done. Like I can't. Like I just put my dad in the ground. And I went away and I went inside, and then I went back to town, and I was staying a little bit like at the Hilton Hotel and staying a little bit at my house just to take a break from all the people. And so I went to the gym, and I went to down to the like gym, and the 20 pounds went off. Like that.
That's an incredible story. I mean,
know,
really,
right?
absolutely incredible. You're listening to Great Taste on KRUU 100.1 FM, the solar-powered voice of Fairfield, Iowa. I'm Steve Boss, and this is 60 Minutes of Delicious Radio. Africa ENGO is our guest, and you wouldn't know it from the stories that we've heard so far, but she is a vegan chef. And we're going to get to that maybe, or that may be another show. I'm not sure yet. But I want to ask you then, first, I want to mention that in the blog post that's online about the show, there's a link to the movie that she talked about. This is a movie that MTV made?
I worked with MTV on charity stuff since I'm like 13, 14. So the movie is on their website. Actually, it was only supposed to be on their website for one day. Yeah, it was like part of the World AIDS Day stuff. You know, if you watch MTV on World AIDS Day, I have to burp.
Oh, go ahead. It's really okay. It's not a problem. We're just fine. We anything goes on this show, by the way. It's not a problem. As we've already heard about boobs, it's like whatever.
I'm such a mess. Okay. I went to college, though, I swear.
It's too bad we didn't have that etiquette guy on. Remember that guy? He didn't show up. Remember he was supposed to be on? Oh, well.
Anyway, so, yeah. Well, oh, yeah. So it was supposed to be on for one day for World AIDS Day. There's like all the TV programming stuff. And so MTV thought it would be great to put the movie online. It's like the first ever in history full-length film on MTV.com, which is kind of cool. Because they, it's like short attention span, like clip, commercial clip. But they decided that they were going to lengthen the attention span for one day and put me on there, and then schools were logging on. It was like this whole program. And it's been 3 years that they left it on there. So.
Do you think they just don't remember that it's
No,
out?
they remember. Because I like panic. I'm like, are you guys going to like take it off? There's like commercials on it now. I feel good about that. I feel like I'm marketable.
Okay, so let's move on from there. So but you did another run too, and were all these runs to raise awareness for AIDS research, and also about women and AIDS?
Yeah, so the Johannesburg run, I was an advocate and ambassador for Russell Simmons' Diamond Empowerment Fund, and he's a TMer. TM, woo! Yeah, and a vegan. Woo! Anyway, so I was an ambassador, and what I did kind of as an activist, because I'm not smart enough to write policy or anything like that. So what I would do on top of using media to raise awareness is that I go into a program and I experience it, and then I tell you, like, I think I know how to make people comfortable, but I seem to know how to make people in programs comfortable. So I can experience the program, and then I can advocate better and help to raise awareness about it, because I go in like 007 of charity, So with that program, what we were trying to figure out was that the kids were getting scholarships and to go to university for free, but then some weren't showing up. But if you take a closer look, I was like, why aren't they showing up? And it's because they live so far away. Like, what's far away from here?
What's far away from here? Just about anything.
Cedar Rapids or like, yeah, okay. So
Des Moines is 2 hours away.
Like a scholarship and you don't have any money to go to like MUM. And then I say, okay, see you tomorrow at school, but you live so far away and you don't go. Like, I could conclude that you don't care about the scholarship or whatever, or I could, if you look closer, you started to see that there was a distance. So the Diamond Empowerment Fund was really smart and was really trying to focus on having a dorm so that the kids would be able to stay on campus and not have to deal with it. So I ran from the house of one of the kids to the dorm just to show the distance. Like, how could they do that every single morning?
And that distance was?
I think that one was like, I don't know, 500 or so.
Miles.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a little difficult to negotiate on a daily basis.
Yeah. I think it was. Maybe 480 something. I don't know. But I did it during the World Cup, and because I love the World Cup, and I was really excited, and I went to the game and stuff, but I just wanted to make sure also that people understood about like what was going on, because it was kind of like party, vuvuzelas, and there was some issues. I had some issues with the World Cup. See, this is where I'm an activist and I don't mind like saying things out loud. It's like there was this like massive stadium, and then there was like huts for the people building it. It was like, it just didn't add up. See, that's what's good if you're a bit like an airhead. You just like make real simple conclusions. Like, why do you have that? You know what I mean?
I do. I've got lots of experience as an airhead, actually. So, all right, we've got all these vegetables around us.
Yeah.
And
drink oil.
You go ahead and drink the oil.
Salt. Where's Emily Rose Shaw?
But I want to know, where did the vegan thing come into this whole chronology?
Initially, I think I worked, you remember the Live Earth films? Remember Live Earth?
Does anybody remember Live Earth?
You remember Live
Okay,
Earth?
what is a Live Earth?
With Al Gore, the concert, 777777777.
That's so long ago.
Oh, that's not good that you don't remember that. Anyway, well, it kind of spurred this whole everybody eating the way that they did. It really, I have to give credit to Al Gore and to Kevin Wall, who really did open the dialogue in a much bigger way at that time. And I, as a media promoter, I was in charge of promoting the films. There was films, and they ran on the TV while the concerts were on, but I launched the films and also tried to find a way for them to be used as a tool for change. So I linked them to this UN conference. But at the time, I was 250 pounds. So I was like watching the films too and learning about like the environment and all these things. And I was like, oh, well, that kind of like, oh, that's bad. And I also helped promote the Live Earth book, which David de Rothschild wrote. There's lots of big words in that one. You can read it.
I can't read anything with big words.
But he breaks it down for people like me too. So I was like reading it, and because I really like to, and my thing is when I learn something, I really like to apply it. And so I was like, wow. So I ran a film festival at the time, and I was like, hey, we can't be serving soda at the film festival anymore. Like, that's not good. But I drink soda. And then I was like, we're going to have all healthy snacks. And I was like, but I don't eat healthy snacks. And all this stuff, like I was really a hypocrite at that time, you know, it's not like I was a hypocrite in my work, but I really felt uncomfortable with myself because I was like, oh, I learned this. I'm going to share it. This is right. Feels good. And that's how I got introduced to sort of veganism. And then I saw Dr. Oz on the Oprah show, and he was talking about raw food. That was the real thing
But I'm curious also as to what was your own, what did you feel about yourself, your own self-image at the time? Did that have anything to do with it? Or were you just so caught up in your work that really it didn't have anything to do with your self-image? It had more to do with the work and how it related to what you were actually living in your life. Did that make sense? I'm curious.
I don't know. I felt fat, you know?
Okay. You didn't feel comfortable in your own body.
Yeah, I mean, the real kind of like was one night I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like that, like, and I felt like I was gonna die. Like I felt like I woke up from dying. I know that sounds a little extreme, but like I stick with that story. Like I felt like if I didn't wake up that second, I felt like maybe I would have like died. And I was like, okay, that's it, because dying is not cute. So I decided to change because I was like, I don't want to die, you know? And
so that was your come to Jesus moment, we'll say, all right? I mean, if we want to put it that way.
Jesus or Buddha or Maharishi or whoever you like.
Okay, fair enough. Now, to me, though, it seems a little extreme to go from that to veganism. I mean, like, that's pretty extreme.
Raw veganism.
Raw, that's even more extreme.
Well, because, okay, I have like one side of me that's very spiritual, and then I have a side of me that's extreme superficial. I'm not gonna lie. Those two things, like, I should be careful. Oh, I'm about to talk about my private life. Ugh.
Please go ahead.
I wouldn't get I have somebody that's special, that has a mutt now, that I'm like learning actually a lot of things from having a dog that's a mutt. Like my dog is a Yorkie. He's cute. Hair. He's like, you know, there's like that side of me. I'm not going to lie. That side of me exists, which is why I need to be so charitable and all those things, like to the extreme, just to make sure that I don't go. So I was getting my advice looking in like celebrities. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, Russell Simmons is cool. He's vegan. And then Dr. Oz, who's more mainstream, he's not. I love Dr. Oz, by the way. And you've
actually cooked on that show?
I did. I made raw noodles.
Well, he's going to have he has something that we may not even get to, so that's good.
I know, right? Watch the Dr. Oz show. But Dr. Oz is more on the other side, like, you know, Oprah, it's more on the mainstream side. So I was watching Oprah and I was like, okay, how am I going to like lose the weight? Like, how am I really going to like do this? And he was like, he had a big like basket of all this stuff. I don't know if you remember Dr. Oz from the Oprah days. He was always like in his blue scrubs, and he was like, if you, like, he would point out, like, talk about your poop and all that kind of stuff. And he was like, if you eat all this food, all this raw vegetables like this, you lose weight. And it was like insane amount. And I was fat, and I ate like pizza for appetizer. You know what I mean? So it got me because I was like, am I eating all that food? Like, I could eat all that food. Like, and so that's how it started. I was like, okay, but it's raw. Like, you don't really you don't cook it. And then, but I remember someone had taken me to a raw restaurant, like back in the Live Earth people that were like, honey, I just came back from Costa Rica. Like, they're more Hollywood about it. They're not like spiritual. They're like, I've been in Costa Rica for like 2 weeks, cost like $7 million. And like, it was a maze, honey. You have to like eat this raw fish. Like, it's so amazing. And like, I put it all in my Gucci bag and I take it around. You know what I mean? They're not like, it's live, it's beautiful. They're like, dude, it's amazing. But like, I still have champagne. But I have this lady that I pay $17,000 to, and she takes it out of me the next morning. You know, like, that's like Hollywood people. Anyway, so he had taken me, and I remembered, and I was like, what's up with this raw food thing? Like, I kept hearing, you could eat. And I was like, I like to eat. So I went to buy a cauliflower from the grocery store, and I was like, I'm going to try to eat it. And I got home and I ate it, and I was like, this is so nasty. And Dr. Oz finally lost his mind, and like, I'm not going to be doing the raw food thing. But then I like to cook. So then I was like, okay, well, maybe if I started like playing around with it and digging and kind of being like, let me try that and let me do that. And, you know, it goes a little bit with the African thing, because like Africans, we always use like everything. Another salt substitute is lemon. That's a big thing. Like in my country, they make the fish with lemon and stuff. It makes it a little salty. If you keep doing it, and if you keep the skin in it too, it makes like a tangy, salty. And so the raw food thing kind of went with my African side in this weird kind of like way. It kind of reminded me who I really was, which was an African girl. And like that, like outside my dad's windows, like mango trees, and we just eat like that. We just eat raw all the time. I just didn't call it raw food. But I started being like, maybe if I... And then actually I started finding out once I started reading. I read. And I started reading, and I started finding out that some of the stuff that I was doing, I was like, oh, this is really hard. Like, maybe if I leave it in some water. And then real chef people would be like, oh, that's called soaking. And I was like, oh, okay, cute. You know? I'm still like that. Like, I don't know. Like, what's the word? Okay. Chiffonade. He comes in here, and he's like, oh, here's the kale. And I was like, cool, what's that? He's like, it's already
I chiffonaded it.
I was like, okay, thank you. I don't even know what that means. But then I realized, because chiffon, which I speak French, is ribbon. So I get it.
Cut it in ribbons, right? Exactly.
He ribboned it. But sometimes, like, I love you, Americans. I love Americans. I am American. I'm proud to be American. But sometimes you don't pronounce the French words that good.
Sometimes we don't even know how to speak American. I don't even know what that is, but, it's...
Oh, I didn't understand what you said, but, like, now, that's right. Chiffonade is... But, if I was, like, a real, a chef, like, I should start acting more chef-y. Like, darling, I chiffonaded the kale. Does it sound better than, like, cut it into little stringy thingies?
Okay, well, I'm afraid it is going to be another show. Anyway, you started doing that, and it changed your life.
Yeah, 95 pounds in 7 months. It just was flying off, which I just loved that.
And were you exercising at the same time?
I danced, and then I Pilates, and then running. So yeah, I was. But the food, I wasn't doing anything. I was just walking because like when I first started, I wore like 3 sports bras and like it was hard. Like, so I was just walking. I lost like the first 30 pounds just walking. I always tell everybody that. I like the raw food and the walking, and I like had a friend and he was super fit and he would just come like walk with me after dinner really fast. And I'd be like, Michael, what are you doing? Like, just wait for me, I'm fat. But it was good because he just kept going. And then, like, so the first 30 pounds really were, like, just the food and the walking.
And then it just kept coming off.
And then they just kept coming off.
So how long now has it been that you've actually been eating this way? And do you eat this way all the time, or do you eat this way?
80%. I eat 80% raw. But, like, sometimes if I travel or if I'm somewhere, you know, sometimes I go like 70%, 30%. But okay, all the raw food is like, if you say, the real raw food is say like it's 100 or nothing, you know? That's not me. I still want to be able to like go out and have like sexy dinner and eat in a regular restaurant. And, you know, so if I feel like having some cooked food, I have some cooked food. The other thing, and I will say, like, it's not good to have too much, like, don't over soy, is, like, if I feel like having a fakey meat, I'm going to have a fakey meat. Like, I'm going to throw it in my 30% because, like, I need to be able to have that to just be, like, feel cool. Or I'll take, like, a fakey meat thing and then put it on a raw thing, like, with a raw thing. But I'll let it cool.
Well, in other words, you just want to continue to enjoy your food.
I do. I mean, I'm a foodie. It's like I lived in Italy, you know. So I'm really big on food, and I'm African, and we have a lot of like variety. So it's like I just let myself do it, but I really don't go below 70% raw.
And your top suggestions for people who are listening, who really want to make some type of change in their life?
Like my top suggestion? I don't know. That's impossible for me to really tell you that, you know? I would just say, like, that the first thing that you have to do is, like reconnect to your spirit. Because if you don't, like, it's just, you're going to, like, the reason I'm in Fairfield and how I got to doing TM is because I met this old Spanish lady called Nelly that learned TM from the Maharishi. And she wasn't a TM teacher.
So you're talking about, I just want to clarify this for listeners, that you're talking about Transcendental Meditation, which is a type of meditation that was taught by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. And in Fairfield, there happens to be a community of many people who practice the Transcendental Meditation program. Mm-hmm. So,
but she told me that I didn't learn TM. I started meditating, but I didn't learn TM till later. Oh my God, why do I have to burp again? I never burp.
Africa, you go right ahead.
Sorry, I'm not gonna burp on the thing. I'm a diplomat's daughter. So then she told me, she was like, if you don't learn this, do the spirit work and find the stillness, you're going to yo, 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 yo. And I was like, that's kind of true. She's got a point there. And so I used to go to her house and she used to make me sit because she said she couldn't teach me because if you're not a TM teacher, you can't teach TM. So, she used to make me sit 20 minutes twice a day and shut up, which, as you can see, is a challenge.
I'm not going to comment on that, actually.
No,
definitely not.
I talk a lot, you know. I always say, if you talk more than me, you talk too much, you know. So, yeah. So she used to make me sit 20 minutes twice a day. And she was like, when it's time, you find a teacher. She kind of was like one of those. My life can be like a movie. I'm really lucky like that. I do have like a really beautiful, amazing life, even in the lows. Like sometimes I watch movies, even romantic comedies. My friend Kathy and I were talking about that. And like guys say these like amazing things and then people are like, nobody ever said that to me. But I'm like, they did to me. Like I have moments like that. And I just like this old lady that came that learned TM. Like I had one of those moments with her and I used to go there every day. And then she like left from my life and I kept sitting 20 minutes twice a day. And sometimes I would transcend and sometimes I wouldn't. And that's why I knew like by the time I learned TM, I was like desperate to learn TM because I just knew like, I was like, it was kind of like Vegas of like transcending, you know, like am I gonna transcend today? Like, but once I added my mantra, it was like, every time, lucky number 7, you know? So she was really amazing like that for my life, because she was like, whenever you're ready, you're going to add the mantra. And it did work. But finding that stillness and like being quiet and remembering myself, that's what I would say is like the top thing to do before the food. Because I'm not you. And like, I don't know what's in your area. And I don't know what's your life. I don't know who your family is. Just because it worked for me, I could give you like a tip. But just because it worked for me, that doesn't mean that it would work for you. And I don't want to be so ego to think like, oh, raw vegan is the way only. Like, but it does work if you want something that works and you get to eat a lot.
And that's important, right?
And that's very important that you eat.
I think it's actually really beautiful what you're saying, because I'm sure there are other people who have said, given that message in the same or somewhat the same manner, but in talking to many, many people on this show over the past 7 years and talking about so many different types of diets, I don't recall anyone who's actually put it that way, that the most important step isn't the eating step, really. It's really the step of finding out and getting in touch with yourself so that you can take the outward step, essentially, of figuring out how to balance your food intake properly.
Yeah, or it won't work. Like, that I can promise you is the same about us. Everybody. If you don't do it, it's not going to work. And even if it works, okay, like, I lost that weight. Even adding the TM took it to another level, because when I lost the weight, I still had like stress. Am I going to gain it back?
Africa's dancing, by the way.
On the scale, off the scale. Am I going to gain it? Like, there's a little anxiety too. When I learned TM was like the first time I didn't go on the scale for 2 weeks. And I didn't even realize, because I would go on the scale all the time. Like, I was just bugging about even 5. It was like, wow, it's been like 3 years. Like, it's okay. Like, you know, even my friend Casey Duke, she's a celebrity trainer. She's going to be my first guest on my show next week. She trains like Lenny Kravitz and like all these really famous people. I was like, Casey, am I okay? Like, am I going to be okay? Even with all the lessons I learned. And she was like, just like, let it go. All the like I'm doing this. Like, I was like, I'm taking this lemon. It's really good for my cholesterol. I'm pouring it on the kale. I'm like, there still was like an inner, like.
Right, there was a lot of stuff going on in your mind still.
Yeah, like overwhelming amount of thoughts, noise, different noise than I'm going to eat this cheeseburger. Better noise, maybe, if you want to say there's a better noise. Still noisy, you know, still noisy. Now, and I know, like, it's not going to be maybe TM for everybody, but for me, since doing TM, I just eat the apple. Like, I just eat. I'm not like, oh, this is like going to work because.
It's interesting that you said that, because just relating it to my own personal experience, because I've been actually focused on you can do that, but I've been actually focused on eating better, we'll say, not losing weight, eating better for the last few months, and I haven't gotten on the scale once, and people are always asking me like every day, well, how much weight have you lost? I don't have any idea, because I haven't had any desire to get on a scale.
Yeah.
That's not the important thing to me. The important thing is.
It is still to me a little bit. Like, I'd still want to, like, be skinny. I'm not going to lie. Like, but it's not all. But, like I said, keep it real. I want to be skinny. I want to look really hot in a bikini.
And you know what? I actually had that same desire. So I think this is a good place to end the show, and we'll talk
really
about yes. And
it's like Howard Stern show now. Back to get naked.
You've been listening to Great Taste with Africa ENGO. It's been absolutely a delight, I have to say.
And not listen to this show. We're just gonna have to send her photos. Like, wasn't I good, mamas? And I wore the malaria no more thing. She's like, very good. Can you pass it to us? Oh no, it doesn't work. I can lie because the internet is bad over there, and I'd be like, I sent it. Like, the internet goes through again. The internet is out, isn't it, Mama? I know. Man, Africa is a problem with that internet. Like, I sent my radio show like 5 times.
This is KRUU 100.1 FM, the solar-powered voice of Fairfield, Iowa. I'm Steve Boss. You've been listening to Great Taste, 60 minutes of delicious radio from Hy-Vee.
Great taste. Sweet. Sour. So good to taste.